Hey folks, Tawana Michelle here, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Coach and Mental Health Therapist, and I am going to tell you some signs that you are healing from narcissistic abuse. And it's so important to have the awareness that you are healing, you are getting past this experience, getting over these people, because that gives you a sense of confidence and self-esteem boost that you need to continue doing the work. It's hard work, it's painful work, and it can become discouraging. So I want you to be able to recognize when you are actually healing. And the first sign that you're healing from narcissistic abuse is that the trauma bond has been broken. You no longer feel addicted to these people, you no longer crave these people. You have less ruminating thoughts about them, and when you do have thoughts about them, you're able to see the reality of the situation. You're able to balance out those thoughts and those memories with both the positive and the negative. So that bond is broken, and this is so important in being able to heal and move past these people, is being able to break that bond. When you are bonded to the narcissist, it's like you are chained to them and like you are being held hostage to someone who is so harmful to you. So once you realize that you no longer crave these people the way you used to, and you know, if you've been with a narcissist, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It feels like an actual physical addiction, okay? It's definitely a psychological addiction, but it's almost as if you can feel it within your body, like the urgency or the urge to really be with these people, and the pull to go back to that person and go back to that relationship. The bond is broken as you heal from the narcissistic abuse. The second sign that you are healing from narcissistic abuse, and these are in no particular order, but you are going to notice that you no longer experience cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when we have two competing beliefs about someone or something. So you know the narcissist has two sides, or they show you two sides. They only have one. The positive side, the beginning stages of that relationship, the love bombing, the idealization stage, is where you see the best of them. This is where they are really putting their best foot forward, and they're really doing all the things to really reel you in. They're very loving, they're very kind. Everything seems to be so perfect in the beginning, and they know exactly what they're doing, because this is how they get you bonded, because they're always gonna put you in a position where you are wanting more and more of that, and you're gonna get less and less of that. But the other side of that is the cruel, abusive side, the manipulative side, the intentionally harmful side, the side where they start to devalue you and to discard you. So it's like you have this hot and cold, good and bad, positive, negative behaviors, and you don't know which to accept, which is true. Who's the real person? Well, you know who the real person is when you start to accept them as they are and understand that everything you had in the beginning of the relationship with that person was a mask. Once the mask comes off, you start to see who they really are. And that's the big part of no longer experiencing the cognitive dissonance, is that you start to accept the narcissist, who they really are. This is a critical stage in your healing. If you cannot accept them as they are, then it's going to be impossible to break that trauma bond, because you're still going to be holding on to that hope. You're still going to be holding on to that fantasy, that potential of what they could have been and what y'all could have had. You have to accept this person was a narcissist. They never actually loved me. They're not capable of loving me. Their only goal was to seek and conquer for power and control, to feed their own ego, to maintain their false, grandiose, superior sense of self. And they do that through hurting people, through hurting vulnerable people. So once you accept them for who they are and you can see that about them, you're definitely healing from narcissistic abuse. Another sign that you are healing from narcissistic abuse is that you start to feel safe around people again, and you start to desire social connections and make those social connections. When you have experienced interpersonal trauma, attachment trauma of any form, trauma in relationships, it causes social isolation. It causes social withdrawal. We start to not trust people. We start to pull away from others. And relationships just don't seem safe anymore. And not even romantic relationships. Friendships as well. For one, when you were with the narcissist, they likely isolated you from all of your family and friends. And so as you are trying to repair those relationships, you are also feeling safer in being more vulnerable and being more transparent and letting people know what you've been through and utilizing those people for support and making new connections. An important part of healing from narcissistic abuse is moving away from unhealthy relationships and starting to make healthy relationships and learning what that looks like. Which takes me to our next sign that you are healing from narcissistic abuse, is that as you start to feel safer around people and you start to make more social connections, you begin to set healthy boundaries. So when you were with the narcissist in the beginning, there were so many red flags that you ignored. There were so many signs that this person was harmful, and we continued to let them do things that wasn't appropriate. We overlooked it, we dismissed it, we would give them chance after chance, we'd forgive them. There were no boundaries, there were no limits. They could do whatever they wanted, and we'd keep taking them back. We'd keep forgiving them. When you are healing from narcissistic abuse, you recognize your self-worth and your value. You know that you don't deserve that type of abuse, and you put an end to it. You have a very clear line. This is not acceptable. This is not tolerable. And you enforce that boundary. So as you're making relationships and feeling safe, you're also learning to make sure you keep those boundaries in check. And the fifth sign that you are healing from narcissistic abuse is that your trauma symptoms start to dissipate. You start to feel more calm and relaxed in your body. Your nervous system is more regulated. Your emotions are more regulated. You're less anxious. You're less fearful. Sleeping better. You're having less nightmares. Your mood is improved overall. There's less sadness and depression and crying spells. There's less intrusive thoughts and memories about all of the traumatic things that you've experienced with them. You're starting to face your feelings instead of avoidance. So all of these things that you experience with trauma that affects your mood and the way you think, your perceptions are starting to change. You're no longer thinking that all relationships are harmful. People are not safe in general. You are changing those cognitive distortions that you have developed as a result of being in a relationship with someone who was hurtful to you. You are starting to see things more realistically instead of through the lens of fear, pain, and trauma. And the sixth sign that you are healing from narcissistic abuse is that you are reconnecting with yourself. One of the main survival mechanisms of trauma and narcissistic abuse's trauma is to disconnect from the self. The less I feel present in my own mind and in my own body, then the less I have to feel the painful stuff that comes along, the less I have to deal with it. It gives a false sense of safety, because if I'm not present emotionally, mentally, physically, then I can't be hurt. And so I disconnect, I disassociate. Well, as you are beginning to heal, you reconnect with your body. Maybe you start doing physical things, which are so important. Maybe you're doing yoga. Maybe you're going back to the gym. Maybe you're walking. Maybe you're getting out in nature. Maybe you're sitting with your own thoughts, journaling. Maybe you're meditating. But you are getting back to yourself in body and mind. And you are present. You are engaging in activities. You are showing up for life. You are showing up for yourself. So important in healing from narcissistic abuse and any type of trauma, reconnecting with the self. When you're doing that, then that's a huge sign you're healing. And the last sign that I'm going to give you, and this is not an all-inclusive list, okay? There are others. I just wanted to give you the main signs that kind of came to me as I thought about my personal experience and others that I have worked with professionally. But the last sign that I'm going to give you, and so important, and all of this stuff, and especially this last one, is an ongoing process. It's a journey. The last sign I'll give you that you are healing from narcissistic abuse is that you are practicing self-love. You are learning to love yourself. You are learning to nurture yourself. You are learning to have a healthy, positive relationship with yourself. And once you do that, all this other stuff that I talked about gets easier and easier. It's easier to not think about that person. It's easier to set healthy boundaries. It's easier to reconnect with myself and seek out healthy, positive social connections when I am in a position of self-love and self-worth. and I know who I am and what I want, and I know I deserve everything that I want, and I know that I deserve to be happy, and I know that my happiness comes from me, from within. And I do things to pour into myself in a loving, kind way every single day. You give yourself everything you were searching for from that narcissist that you were never going to get. And not only from the narcissist, in general, we have to learn to love ourselves and not seek that outward, not seek that validation externally. That doesn't mean that we don't want to be or need to be in loving relationships. We do. Healthy, safe, loving relationships are extremely important, but it means that we have to be able to love ourselves first and be okay with who we are. So we're not seeking that outside of ourselves. And once you get to the self-love, as I said, it's so much easier to keep moving forward and to not go backwards. So that's all I wanted to give you guys. Let me know in the comment section down below what your experience has been healing from narcissistic abuse, and if there's anything that I didn't add. I know there's a lot I didn't add. Make sure you put that down below. If you have any questions about this topic or any topics in general related to the narcissist, also put that in the comment section. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it out with others who you think may benefit, and watch some of my other content. Let me know if you like it. Subscribe to this channel. We'd love to have you be a part of this community. And I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care. Bye.